Hello and welcome to another installment of Inside with IAIS. My name is Gabe. I'm here with our education coordinator, Darlene, who you probably have been listening to Tales from the Rabbit Bag these last few weeks. But we wanted to ask Darlene, tell us a little bit about how you got into being a traditional Native American storyteller.
Well, I kind of stumbled upon it. A career change. I was looking for a new career, something new, new direction. So I started volunteering here at the museum. And in seeing the exhibits, I realized that there's a story that needs to be told about the people. Because when people come through the museum and just see the objects and read the panels, they're not really hearing the voice of the Native people. So I really felt it was important that the Native people's story was being told. So that's kind of where it started, with doing tours for visitors and engaging them in conversations and teaching them a little bit about the way Native people think and how it's a bit different than the way Western society thinks. From there, it went into education. Once again, I realized the importance of what we're teaching children in regards to Native people. So often, Native people are talked about like they're these mythical, magical creatures living out in the woods, you know, but they don't really talk about the beauty of the people and the intelligence and how smart they really were in using the resources that were necessary. And then from there, through education, I was introduced to storytelling by Janice Forhart's Whispering Us. And that's when I really fell into telling traditional Native American stories, children's stories.
So what do you view as your most important responsibility as a traditional Native American storyteller?
Preserving that history, passing that history down to the next generation, and making sure, like I said earlier, that the Native perspective is being told and understood. Because one society wasn't smarter or different than the other. You know, one was not dumber, smarter. They were just different. And in learning about the differences in the way that both cultures thought, you could understand why the problems they had later on, the reason why they came up.
So as a traditional Native American storyteller, you learn your stories the traditional way. Tell us a little bit more about that process of learning those stories.
My understanding of it is we don't read our stories in a book and memorize it. We don't listen to it on an audio or a cassette, 8-track, whatever you want to call. What we do is we sit down with another storyteller, and they tell us that story, and they give us that story as a gift. It's our responsibility to memorize that story and to give it the respect that it deserves, honoring the people whose story it was, especially if you're talking about creation stories, and doing that story justice, making sure that the lesson that's supposed to be in that story comes through. You could change things up a little bit here and there, but it's those valuable lessons that we try to keep intact.
Do you have any tips and things that you go to when you're trying to learn a story?
For some people, memorizing a story is very easy. That is not one of my talents. So I need to listen to something, and what I often do is I'll hear it, I'll learn it from a storyteller, and then I record myself telling it, and then I listen to my own recording so that I can, sync it and solidify it in my head. And I also use my animals. If I'm telling a story in a very monotone, flat way, all they want to do is jump on me, grab the little finger puppet I'm using, grab my rabbit bag. I don't have their attention. But if I have the story down with the right tone, with the right interesting voices for the characters, I notice a transformation in the dogs, where they just stop and they stare and they're paying attention and they're hung on my every word. That's when I know I'm ready to launch that story.
Do you have a favorite storytelling experience?
I have to say it was last year during camp. Telling stories to some children that were in the same tribe as myself, Scatico tribe, and then having those kids come back the next day and hear them retelling that story, that to me was beautiful. That's our future. That's the next generation that's going to be the next storytellers. They're going to learn these stories, practice these stories, and share those stories. That to me was very rewarding.
Are there any other final tips that you might share, or things that you want people to know about traditional Native American storytelling?
There are so many different types of traditional Native American stories. I tend to focus on the children's stories the most because of the occupation that I have as an educator here at the museum. But there's other stories as well. There's creation stories, more for adults to learn and listen to. And you can understand a lot more about Native people when you learn their stories, what they value. It's truly an experience, like I say, to hear these elders tell the stories and share them with us. Each culture has their own stories. Each family has their own stories. I encourage people, whatever their nationality is, whatever their culture is, to learn from their elders, learn about their family's history. What brought them here? There were great sacrifices that were made by everyone. Imagine people coming from faraway places to land that they're not sure about, they don't know, anything about. That has to be a great leap of faith. People coming here against their wishes, brought over as slaves. The courage that it must have taken them as well to survive and continue. Learn those family stories. There's also stories that each culture has that talks a lot about their ways of being and their ways of thinking. So I always encourage people to learn those stories, share those stories, and be proud of those stories. We need to keep those stories alive and pass them down for the next generation.
Thank you for sharing a little bit about your traditional Native American storytelling, and thank you for watching.